see your mother. You were only given one, go see your mother. And you know that you will never have another. Go see your mother. Go see your mom.
Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is my mother, Ema. Hey, Ema.
Hey, sweetness. That's my budgie.
I'm doing good. So I wanted to talk about this week's episode. The idea of success and the fear about it. I'll ask you a couple questions and we can just take it from there. So, opening question, when you hear the word success, what feeling comes up for you? Excitement, pressure, or fear?
Excitement, happiness. It's I've heard people say that it's like poverty is easier to manage than extreme wealth. That's what that's like that's something that people say, but I don't believe that. Because I've been in extreme poverty, and I much rather enjoy being wealthy than poor. Put it that way. So some reason, I don't know if failure is easier to imagine than success. So we were discussing before about there was this column in the newspaper an advice column that was run by a psychologist, and a young woman wrote in about this very thing, that she's very, very successful and she's happy she is, but she's got this how she has this fear and she doesn't know where it's coming from. The psychologist says, jokingly, the psychologist said to her facetiously, aha, you have been discovered that you're a success and that you're really a fake. Yeah, you're really a failure, and that all the success is just a fake. And he was laughing. He went, ha, 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 come on, He says, that's not true. You earned your success, and just be happy with it. I think that this is where our faith in God comes from, is that when we're successful, we have to realize that also comes from Hashem. Hashem has made us successful. And the best thing to do is to, of course, not be egotistical about it, because we know it isn't totally us. I mean, we put forth the effort, but Hashem helps us. And to be happy and be grateful to Hashem. It says, be happy with your lot. Or your father used to joke around and say, be happy with your loot. I think part of being happy with your lot is acknowledging that the success that Hashem has given you, and be grateful for it.
Okay. So I guess, have you ever stopped yourself from going after something? Not because you might fail, but maybe because you might actually get it?
I'm trying to think back. The only thing I ever did was I was working in a daycare, and I giving piano lessons and working in daycare like I'm doing now, and I enjoyed it very much. And this woman I was giving piano lessons to worked for, forgot what kind of a company it was, some sort of insurance company, whatever. I forgot what kind of a company it was. And she felt that I would be really good as a trainer for the agents of this company. And it would require, a whole, going away for a training session. It was like real, like we say in teaching, when am I going to stop? When am I going to leave teaching and get a real job? And I thanked her very much. But I said, look, I am very happy doing what I'm doing, working with children. And I just, I realized I was just very, very happy working with children and doing what I was doing. And I didn't think that I would be happy working with adults, like training adults.
See.
But that's the only time. That's the only time I actually turned down anything. The only other time I turned down something, but it was because I was offered a partial scholarship to Goucher, which meant I would have to borrow, um, I would have to borrow the money, get a student loan out, or I could go to Towson for, like I said, got a full scholarship to Towson for nothing. So the question was, do I go to Goucher and graduate already being in the hole for, well, today it wouldn't be that much. It would have been $5,000. But in those days, $5,000 was something. And I just did not like the idea of starting life out already being in debt.
Oh, that's not that much nowadays.
Nowadays it's not, but in those
No,
days it was.
No, what I mean to say is
Something.
$5,000 when you graduated college. I'm not going to give you your year, but I'm just saying, and you graduated in college,
Mhm,
is about $35,541 today,
mhm.
which isn't that much for a
It
student
isn't
loan,
that much, but I tell you the truth, I still wouldn't have done it.
really.
I would not, if I had the same choice today of going to college almost totally free of charge or going for $35,000, I would still, I guess, yeah, it would not have made a difference in my field.
Well, I have a question because I get that feeling sometimes too, because I went to school and I really chose it for financial reasons. But looking back, if I really wanted to push and maybe create like a good portfolio, maybe get into a better school and be a little more, I'd be not little, but like 3, 4 times more in student debt. But I think about like maybe the connections I would have or the name of the school by getting my foot in the door into other positions that I unfortunately couldn't because of the name of the school that I went to. You know, thinking that maybe they could have given me better job opportunity. Do you ever think about that? Like maybe if you went to Goucher, it would look a little better, and you would have had more connections and more people to work with when it comes to like your career.
I don't
Or
think, so.
how you don't think so?
I don't think it would have made a bit of difference. No, because I told you there was a girl in the same field I was in who did graduate Goucher, and we were in New York together. And I got a job before she did. She was still looking, and I was already working. And I was talking. In fact, I was discussing with my sister the same thing, and she said that in her field, she found herself working with coworkers who had these amazing degrees from like Hopkins University and Goucher, and they were working at the same jobs, earning the same pay that she was earning.
And I kind of agree with that. I kind of had that as well, where like people that went to other schools, more prestigious, I was working side by side, you know? And that's always something that like I kind of keep in mind because it comes to back to what we're talking about success. You want to like set yourself up for success. And I think it's, you know, the idea of maybe being scared of success, even though it's something most of us say that we want, it's kind of because I feel that way sometimes where I'm afraid of success. I feel more comfortable in a rough environment because I'm just so used to it.
So you hit a nail on the head about being used to something. Well, I know, like like I never grew up with riches or anything, and I've often felt like when I've visited people, like friends of mine that lived in very luxurious houses,
Mhm.
and when I walked into their houses, I felt a little uncomfortable. You know what I mean? I'm very happy with this nice little plain house I have here,
It's a little
and
Shake Shack.
it's comfortable, and it's very, in fact, with you kids, it was all, I mean, I saw people who had very, very fancy high-end houses, and then when they started their families, they went crazy that the kids shouldn't be in this room, the kids shouldn't be in that room, they shouldn't get their fingers on this, they shouldn't get their fingers on that, and they shouldn't touch this and touch that. And I was happy in a way that we didn't live in a very luxurious house, and I didn't have to worry, hey, you kids were gonna mess up anything. I mean, our furniture was all secondhand furniture. It was like no furniture lasted in our house more than maybe 2 or 3 years. You kids would jump on it, you would break it. Oh, your father and I would joke around about our disposable furniture. We would get another set of secondhand furniture. Get jump on it, then break it. Get another, free set of secondhand furniture that people were giving away.
Was
Um, but because
was
like I said, I remember in fact one night, I don't think you were born yet. Your older sisters, they were little, and it was Motzei Shabbos, and they wanted to do something like different, whatever. So I had an idea. They had roller skates. I said, let's make a roller derm. And I pushed back we had hardwood floors. I pushed back the furniture in the living room and dining room. I dimmed the lights. I turned on some music, and they just rolled. They just had a great time just going around like our own roller skate ring. And your father's mother, who had a very high-end, very, fancy house, when she found out we had done that, she couldn't believe that I had done that. I said, come on. I said, I said, we have hardwood floors. I said, so what? It's not that we have like real expensive art or something. And she was the one that had very expensive art and very like gorgeous wall-to-wall carpeting and a very high-end house.
was Tati afraid of success?
That's a good question. I don't know.
He never talked to you about it?
I don't think so. Well, let's put it this way. He had enough struggles that he didn't have to worry about being afraid of success. He was just trying to succeed. He worried about, but he wasn't, because he did become successful. Thank God. He worked hard, and he knew he was working hard. He worked for the state of Maryland. Eventually, he did get a supervisory position, and he did get some he got some rewards and recognition from the governor.
Okay.
Like there was a picture of him with the governor, with like an award that he received from the governor.
Yeah. No, I saw that one. But he never talked to you about his success or his struggles or anything like that?
He didn't have to. I saw them firsthand.
I understand, but did he ever talk to you as a spouse to discuss things like that?
He did. He saw there were some. Well, the hard part was before he got his position with the state of Maryland. He applied for a lot of jobs in the private sector, and the sad thing was it was either the Shabbos or the beard or the yarmulke. And I don't know if I told the story, but there was a position among the Allied independent drugstores. They had their own, you might say, group. So they had their own legal group. There was these are independent pharmacies, not the Rite Aid, not the CVS, not the Walgreens. You don't see so many of them anymore. But there used to be a lot of these little independent health and beauty aid stores. And they had also the pharmacy, and they had eating counter, whatever. So they formed kind of like a union, so they could all work together. And there was a position where they wanted someone to go around to the stores and evaluate them and give advice about how they could improve their organization, in the store, how they could improve their clientele. So there was a man on the board there who really wanted this job for your father. He told the head of the board, "This is the guy you want. This young man has worked with his father in retail, health and beauty aids, and pharmacies since he was 15. He knows his way around all about Baltimore. He grew up. He was raised here. He says, this is the guy you want. And he's honest and he's hardworking. This is the guy you want." So the head of the board says, "Yeah, but he's got a beard. He's got a yarmulke. I don't know how that's going to come off to everybody." And he said, and the man was really plugging me. He says, "Look," he says, "forget the beard, forget the yarmulke." He says, "You want somebody who's going to be good, who's going to be honest, who's going to do really good work for you. And this, I'm telling you, this is the guy you want." The guy refused to accept his recommendation. Instead, they hired their nice Joe, Clean Cut Joe College. And Clean Cut Joe College didn't do a bit of work, never showed up, didn't do anything that he was supposed to do. So they fired him. So old clean cut Joe College says to them, "You can't fire me. We have a contract." And they said, "Yes, we can, and we are firing you." He took them to court, sued them for $2 million and won.
Wow.
Very, very hard lesson in not being discriminating based on appearance. Too bad they had to learn a $2 million lesson.
So did Tati have any dreams or aspirations of what he wanted to be, or was it more of like whatever works?
Well, he basically, he really was a very good writer, but I don't know if he had aspirations to be a creative writer. He also got a big part in the school play in college, and a lot of people were amazed. They said he did a tremendous acting job. He really had a lot of talent. But these are fields that, you know what I mean? I have to tell you. Yeah.
They're art fields. They're art fields. Art fields kind of have this struggle where it's like the really good make a lot of money, and the really good also make nothing.
Yeah.
So it's just that crapshoot that a lot of people just don't care to pursue, because chances of actually getting somewhere or doing something just isn't very applicable. You know,
I found that also, like in my field. When I first graduated college, I went for all these vocal auditions, and I couldn't believe it. In 1 week, I had 5 auditions, didn't get a single one. Not a single one.
Wow.
And I said, I realized that I've spoken to other people who used to be in like the performing field like that, and they said, yeah, they eventually got out of it. They found the same thing. They found the same thing too. Going to all these different auditions, trying out for this, trying for that, and not getting anything, not getting anywhere. And
I guess that...
most of my friends in college did not really go into the actual professions that they were training for, because they discovered the politics behind these fields.
Did your parents want you to do anything else?
My father wanted me to be a scientist.
What kind of scientist?
He was hoping I would invent the first spaceship that worked with a laser engine.
Oh, that's funny.
He saw a lot of potential in me, but and I did for a long time. I was pursuing the science field. I wanted to be something in the science field for a long, long time, and then I realized that I really didn't have the talent for it. I mean, I saw kids that were amazingly brilliant, just naturally brilliant in math and in science, and wow, I had to work very hard and study very hard for my math and science tests.
Yeah, but I don't want to piss on your parade, but
I succeeded, but it wasn't. I could tell it wasn't a natural talent.
But it's not about natural talent. It's about Yukatsu Matsatsu, with something that you're trying to work towards. And having things come easy to you isn't necessarily good, because then when you have a real challenge, you won't know what to do.
But you can tell where you have your, like we said, you can tell when you have your niche. You can tell when you start working in a field, or you look into a field.
Yes.
Is this really, am I comfortable where I am? Is this like a glove? Is this really do I feel like a fish out of water, or do I feel very comfortable here? And I felt more comfortable in music and in working with children. And that's what I like. And that's what I somehow felt very comfortable in that.
I can understand that. I definitely get that with, different people in their careers, and how the industries in various fields really make you understand, especially again, back to what we're saying beforehand, especially in the arts, there's definitely these very talented, extremely knowledgeable people that just have that je ne sais quoi to be able to really finesse.
What does that mean in French?
Je ne sais quoi actually means kind of like something. Like actually like I think it means I don't know what.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a French phrase for I don't know what,
Uh-huh.
but it means like a vibe.
Yes.
And when I was in architecture school, I definitely saw people who had that. A lot of these guys I knew in school were just fiercely talented, and
Mhm.
others where it's just like they get the concepts, they understand what to do, but they're not really these, you know, higher echelon, high concept, you know, architects, etc. They were just trying to like get a degree and get out and have it good on their resume. So a lot of people that were, if they put in more effort, they could be talented, available, understanding.
Mhm.
I'm still in talks with a few people. Some guys are in contracting, other guys they're in engineering, you know,
Mhm.
like, and others I know really pursued a very hardcore architectural career.
Mhm.
So it comes and goes. It depends. It depends on, in my opinion, the willingness and the want of something, even if you don't have the talent for it, in my opinion. I think talent isn't good enough. I think you need to have drive. And I think you need to have something that pushes you, that eventually you'll find it. Similar to like the story of that story song from Journey is about Yankel in the little town.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, how he doesn't know anything, he can't comprehend Gemara. You know, he seems to be a fool, but he prays to God strong enough and hard enough and long enough where eventually, you know, his rabbi sees him really cry and want it, that he gives him an opportunity to learn in a yeshiva,
Mhm.
and eventually he becomes a very well talented
Mhm.
man and
Mhm.
scholarly. And that's kind of something that I was always taught since I
Mhm.
was a kid. Like, you got to your matzatzi, you work hard, you'll succeed.
Mhm.
If you want something bad enough, it'll happen. It's just going to take 1, 2, 3, 40 years. I mean, there's a story that came out. There's this the story of this hair band from the 80s that like opened up, I believe, for like Def Leppard or some other big band, but they never really succeeded.
Mhm.
And the lead guitarist or lead singer tried for 40 years to make something of himself. And finally, a documentary came out about the band, and they found out that he's still struggling to become something. And it just popped off, and he became this, you know, big sensation after 40 years.
Wow.
So it's like,
Give that guy a
it's
lot of credit.
it's
Not
definitely a lot of
kidding.
credit, a lot of will,
Wow.
a lot of
Mhm.
drive. Um,
Mhm.
you know, because as you're talking, I'm realizing the thought process I had when I was in college, where first off, I didn't want to be in debt, so I chose a cheaper school. And then I saw people with talent and really working hard, and I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to have the talent. I wanted to have that, you know, je ne sais quoi, being able to be that fancy architect. And I'm just, you know, working hard now, just trying to be something, because, you know, it's just, it's it's something I feel like I need to do. And that's really what it is, where it's this goal of mine, it's this end post goal of mine
Mhm.
to be something. And whatever that is, I don't know. I
Mhm.
honestly, I can't tell you, but I want to be something.
It's interesting, like different careers. I remember hearing a talk by Mayor Abacera. He said that what he wound up being famous for was writing natural food cookbooks. He never growing up in his life imagined that he was going to become famous for writing natural food cookbooks.
So I have a question. Do you think there's a part of you that feels like you deserve success or not deserve success?
Yeah, well, I think I feel my as a like as an honest as an honest individual, as somebody, as someone who's basically tries to live her life as honestly as she can, you know, yeah, any a good honest person deserves success. Sure, sure.
So
I think what irritates people is when they see someone be successful who's a real, God forbid, louse. Like I was thinking about unfortunately our American idea of success is wealth.
yeah.
And let's face it, as far as life goes, you can't take it with you. And a person's success as a human being can, can't always be evaluated. In fact, it cannot be evaluated in dollars and cents. Like your father used to say, the real success of a human being is how your children talk to you. So, I was listening to a talk show that was discussing this about wealth and success. And people pretty much agreed that anybody who works honestly and develops a company and pays their workers a decent amount and treats their workers well and make sure that, the work conditions are safe and are comfortable and the workers are getting good benefits and, and good money. No one denies that person. No one can deny that person does not, does deserve success. Because that's what that person really deserves success, because they're building this business, they're fulfilling the dream, but they're not doing it at the expense of putting down or lowering others. In other words, their money is honestly earned. What people get irritated about is someone who becomes very financially successful, finds a company and becomes a billionaire, whatever, and pays his workers peanuts, has lousy working conditions for the workers, lousy benefits. In other words, he's earning his wealth by stepping on his workers. And that's what, I don't want to say who it was, but, it was someone in my family who I knew. And at the end of his life, he died with very little money. Because he was, at one point, he was very, very rich, extremely rich. But he did it, like I said, he paid his workers peanuts. He didn't give them really good benefits. He was getting wealthy by basically cheating his workers, you might say.
Yeah.
And in the end, he wound up with nothing. So, what good did it do him?
Do you think you've reached your pinnacle success?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I never got a chance to really, all those stories and songs I made up. I mean, I recorded them, and every now and then I pass them on to the teachers through our WhatsApp. Hopefully that they'll use these songs in their classrooms. And some teachers do, some teachers don't. But all the stuff, I really would like to be able to write down my stories and have one of you kids who's very talented in art illustrate it.
Well, I'm like I said, you just have to write them down and give me some direction. I'll do it.
Yeah, I should really do that. I mean, I recorded them. I should really sit down and actually write them out. Yeah. Type them out, write them out.
So, I guess what I'm trying to really push here. Mm-hmm. Did you ever hold yourself back?
I did when I was young, when I was a kid, when I was little. It's like the first few years of school. For some reason, the people around me convinced me that I was a total dumbbell. And whenever there would be like some sort of, maybe like on a test, the teacher at the end of the test would have extra for experts, like questions that you could solve or puzzles you could solve and you'd get extra credit. I wouldn't even bother looking at it. I wouldn't even bother, wouldn't even try. And then when I got more into like 7th and 8th grade, and I got these things on my test, I thought, wait a minute, why not? Come on, try, why not? And I was actually able to solve a few of them and to get extra points on the test. But I think the system, though, also held me back in that I remember going from 7th to 8th grade. You could take, going from 7th to 8th grade, you could take a foreign language and algebra, I wanted to take a foreign language and algebra. And I let the counselor talk me into, that I wouldn't be able to handle both, that I should just take the foreign language. And I think back to that, I said, I think our system holds kids back. I really do. I think our kids are capable of doing a lot more. I think the system does a lot to hold them back. Like I wanted to go into some like more fun things on the topic, and I
Sure.
have a different topic tonight.
Sure,
Like the
sure,
idea,
sure.
yeah, like I want to talk about customs and food and things that things that were common with my parents' generation and the generations before them. And one thing in particular, first of all, the diet. My parents used to eat cottage cheese and sour cream, and borscht and sour cream and gribbenas, and we look at that now, it's like, oh my God, enough cholesterol to give the entire country a heart attack. Yet my parents, despite that diet, lived to their 90s.
That's crazy.
So go figure. Yeah. And then it was the idea, a lot of people don't know this. Your generation doesn't know anything about this. But up until about the 1980s, a married woman on invitations and on letters or whatever, was always designated totally by her husband's name. And it wasn't, let's suppose if your name was Aviva. So it wasn't Mrs. Aviva Goldberg. No. And her husband's name was David. She would be addressed as Mrs. David Goldberg. So when the first Erev book came out in the early 80s, obviously the people who compiled it and printed it out were from the older generation. And they wrote everyone's name, all the women's names down in the Jewish community, in the from Jewish community, as like Mrs. David Goldberg. And so all the women that come in, we were all laughing about it. Like we came over to each other, in shopping or in the stores or something, and we would say, "Hey, hello, David Goldberg. I didn't know your name was David. Well, I didn't know your name was Almond." We were joking around with each other. So when the next edition came out the year afterwards, they would write down something like this: Mrs. David Goldberg, and then Mr. and Mrs. David Goldberg, and in parentheses, Aviva. It was totally the husband's name. Except at the end, they put in parentheses now. Now, the wife's name was put in parentheses at the end. So everyone was laughing about that one and criticizing them and saying, come on, can we break into the 20th century? Finally, the year after that, they printed out Mr. and Mrs. Aviva and David Goldberg. And now, you see, like when you get invitations or anything, you see that now, that the wife's name is right there next to the husband's name. But there was a time when the wife's name was totally not there.
How did that make you feel?
What, with the wife's name not being there?
Yeah.
I didn't like it either. And as a matter of fact, I went to a speech, talk that was being given by the head of the Now organization. This was when I was in college. And she said that was one of the things that they were fighting for, was this business of getting rid of a woman being designated as like Mrs., like Mrs. John Jones or something, where she has no recognition whatsoever. And they also wanted to try to work on getting rid of the whole idea of head of household, especially because husbands and wives, were basically put in a lot of the same hours. Like on tax forms, head of household was usually the husband, was the designated head of household.
So do you think you've lived a very strong feminist life?
It depends what you mean by that.
It's a crap
I mean,
shoot.
I was for a while, I was a stay-at-home housewife. I mean, I always did worked little jobs on the side to try to earn extra money. But I just felt, as a matter of choice, that as I was raising my family and driving carpools and everything, I saw the effects that full-time working mothers had on children. That the mothers were getting home very, very tired, and the kids needed help in school, or they needed recognition, or they needed some time, and the mother was totally washed out. She just didn't have it to give. And I decided I didn't want that for my children. I wanted to be able to, have my kids come home, see me, sit down, work out their homework with them. And I felt also like, as far as, economically, I felt that even when you kids were little, and when you were babies, I didn't like what I saw in daycares. and in people that were providing babysitting services. I didn't like what I saw at all, and I decided, the best thing to do was for me to stay home and raise my own child, because I didn't like I said, I checked things out and I just did not like what I saw. I thought the best thing for my kids would be for me to stay home and raise them. And that's a choice. That's a choice every woman has, and it should be a choice. In fact, I gave a talk one time to a Zionist youth organization, and one of the girls there asked that question about a woman's role in the home. And I said to her, in the house or out of the house, shouldn't be the issue, because there's a lot to be said for an educated mother who chooses to stay home and raise her family. I said, what should concern us about women is that the choice to stay home and raise your family is truly our choice, that we're not forced into that role because there's nothing else that we're able to do. And I hate to say it, when I was growing up, yes, I did see women who in the 1950s were forced into that role and were very resentful of it.
How did you see, what did they do?
But I wasn't resentful of it, because I felt that, this was my choice. This is what I felt was best for my children. This is what I wanted to do.
Well, out of curiosity, what did they do to show that they were spiteful and they didn't care for it?
When I was growing up,
Yeah.
I saw some women that were depressed, that had no outside interest other than the home. No hobbies, no, part-time work or anything like that. And basically felt trapped. And in those days, and there was a lot of discrimination against women. I remember one of my first jobs, I found out that it was in a hamburger place. I found out the boys working there earned more than the girls. And when I asked the manager why was this, he said, well, the boys clean the machine. I said, fine, train me to clean the machine and you can pay me the same amount. And he just laughed at me like I was so cute and walked away.
Oh, wow. Gosh. And do you think you've raised, I guess, respectful men and strong women?
Of course I have. Look at yourself.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm just curious what you have to say. That's all. Just grab it at anything.
The proof is in the pudding. Now you can't deny that, can you?
No, I cannot.
I mean, one of your brothers was criticizing the way I raised him, and I said to him, "Yeah, but look what a fantastic person you turned out to be." Now you can't argue with me about that, can you?
Well, they could say in spite of.
Don't give him any ideas.
I won't. Well, I mean, that's also another thing I find very trendy and stupid that I see, like 20-year-olds have a tendency to do, where they just blame their parents for everything, and eventually you just grow out of it and start taking responsibility for your own actions.
Let's blame the mother. It's the typical thing to do. Let's blame the mother instead of looking at me and you.
Shall I blame the mother, or the problem's really something, and I feel like I'm gonna cry. Hey!
Didn't I teach you the correct lyrics to that song?
I forgot. I'll be honest with you, I forgot. All right, we're almost out of time. I love you, Emma. Have a great Shabbos.
Have a great Shabbos. Bye-bye.
That's another episode of Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Thanks for listening to us kvetch, reminisce, and of course, get a little motherly advice along the way. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your favorite Jewish mother or anyone who needs a little guilt in their life. Got a story, question, or just want to say hi? Send us a message. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, call your mother. She worries.